Thank you both so much for coming on.
Yes, of course. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm excited to talk with you both, and also excited about how like open and willing to talk about vulnerable things you guys seem to be.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like there's personally, there's like no other way for me to, it's just me being myself. I'm just like open. And
yeah.
Maybe I say too much, I feel like sometimes, but I feel like that's the way to be.
Do you feel that way? Do you feel like you say too much?
Sorry, we have this like super awkward, cumbersome table that's, I just kicked.
Like, you're fine. My laptop is literally on 2 shoe boxes. So
same with ours. Keep this little box.
Say too much? I don't know. Maybe more my personal life. I feel like, yeah, but can you even say too much? You know?
Yeah, I feel like I always feel like there's this interesting line between vulnerability and openness and oversharing. And I feel like that's like a difficult line to navigate, and one that I don't think the internet has been particularly helpful with. I feel like there's a lot of, it's very easy to just overshare. And I think figuring out like the boundaries between what's a thing that I've really processed and thought through that I'm willing and comfortable sharing that's also vulnerable, versus what's a thing that like I should probably spend 3 years working on in therapy and then circle back to the internet.
Yeah, that's a really great point. I feel like I overshared a little too soon. Yeah, when problems would like come up in my life, I would speak about them before I really got to dissect them and figure out what they actually meant to me.
It's a weird age that we're living in where you have this community that you converse with online.
Yeah.
And you can just talk to, but then the stuff that you put out also reaches other people that you're not meant to be sharing with. And so oversharing becomes a thing. It's like you like jump to the end of a conversation with somebody that you're just starting one with, if that makes any sense.
Completely.
But I feel like that's kind of what a podcast is. Like you even just by like the title of your podcast or something, you kind of attract a group of people that hopefully want to listen to what you're saying.
Yeah, definitely.
To listen as well. I mean, if you're speaking for like over an hour or so, like most podcasts are, I mean, a lot of people aren't just going to want to sit around for over an hour and hear what you have to say unless they really, their beliefs align with what you're talking about, which is
yeah. Yeah, I feel like the in general, the podcast audience is sort of more interested in a vulnerable, longer conversation. They want something that's a little heartier, a little meatier, I think.
For sure.
That's why I listen to podcasts. I feel like I've learned a lot through just listening to podcasts in the past 2 years of my life.
But you guys are not doing yours anymore. Is that right?
Yeah.
Why? What happened? How long did you do it for?
It kind of circles back to what you were saying before about like really making sure that we know ourselves before putting everything out. Like, I realize I'm changing so rapidly in my life. As soon as I turn 21, for some reason, I'm like, okay, I need to be a full-blown adult now. And I just feel like I can't do that overnight.
Are you both 21 now?
We're both 21, yeah.
Okay, got it.
I turned 21 in December, so it's been some time. But
yeah,
I feel like I'm really striving to mature myself and think about the things that I'm really passionate about or that I want to change. And I can't learn them all fast enough to be speaking about them on a weekly basis.
I mean, that's mature in itself. That's wow. People could take a note from that.
Thank you. Yeah, I just feel like I spoke about so many things early on in the podcast. We were doing it for maybe a year.
Yeah, we did audio only for a while. And that was more just like childhood stories and like goofy stories and stuff like that. But as Ethan said, like we turned 21, and I don't know if it was just like the mark of like, now you're 21. And I just felt like I needed to like uphold this like adult.
Yes.
Yeah. You know what I mean? I wanted to be an adult, and I wanted to change things that I saw that were problems and that I felt passionately about. But it takes so long to learn about all that stuff.
Yeah, I was running into the problem where we both were, where we like recorded an episode like a month and a half.
Yeah.
And then we were just like, I don't even know if we feel the same way anymore. Our values and views have changed since then. I don't really know if I want to put this out. So I felt like we kind of keep chasing our tail with that unless we really took time to just find ourselves and figure out what we truly believed in.
Was there anything that you guys felt like, oh God, I wish I hadn't, like any specific examples of things that you were like, oh no, shouldn't have done that?
Yeah, like I think 50% of my online existence, I go to sleep at night thinking twice about. Not
50% of my like real life existence is how that goes through me.
I think that's just normal like human behaviors to like question things that you've done and like maybe a little bit cringed out by things that your past self has done. And now we're living in an age where everything is kind of like permanent, and it's on the internet, and it's out there, and it's not only you that thinks about it, other people have to view it, and so there's like another added pressure there. And so I think that what we're doing now is just taking time to really find ourselves, because we did jump into social media at 14, and
wow,
from the day I turned, maybe even before that, I was still making things like in hopes that I would become Vine famous or whatever. But I was like putting myself out there from such a young age that I never got to like just sit alone with myself and think about the things that I truly wanted for myself.
Right. So where are you guys at with the internet and all it entails now? Are you not because I checked your YouTube channel. I was like, oh, let me see what they're like posting recently. Nothing's been posted for 6 months, right?
Yeah. It feels, I thought it was longer than 6 months, but probably not. I feel like since I put my phone down, I honestly don't even use social media anymore. Like I took a break from going on apps and Twitter. Yeah, I watched The Social Dilemma and it was kind of like, whoa.
Yeah, for sure.
Kind of like exiting social media or creating on social media. And I guess that was just like the validity to my I guess opinion on what I thought social media was at the time. I heard some interesting facts about how like when you wake up and you have all these thoughts that you're not supposed to have because you're just picking up your phone and you're looking at other people's lives and opinions, and they make you feel emotions that you wouldn't be feeling at like 8 a.m. laying in bed. So I wanted to just focus on starting my days and living my days just with the emotions and feelings that I would have in my personal life, and not really, I don't know, attaching myself to other people's lives just for a little bit. And so far it's been honestly a breath of fresh air.
I can imagine. I'm sure though, have you had like this difficult kind of curve where you guys have been on the internet for so long, you're famous from things that you did on the internet. Do you feel like, oh God, that's going to slip away? Like, are you worried about some level of fame or any of that slipping away? Or are you just like, no, man, I'm doing me?
I think I'm, for the most part, just doing me. I think of, I guess, fame and having an influence as like something that I don't really hold personally valuable. Like, I don't care if people like think that I'm famous and recognize me for being famous. I just appreciate the voice that it's given me and the ability to invoke change and things like that. So
wow,
I'm trying to like figure out, that's kind of like the battle that I'm going through in my head, is like, I don't want to let it slip away because I still want to be able to make a change, but I just want to make sure that it's like the right thing for me. Because it also was just like, it became toxic to my lifestyle. Like, I'm a very private person.
Yeah.
There was a lot of things that happened that, I haven't been able to speak about for one reason or another that just have like kind of messed with me in my head. And so it's like, it's almost like I'm dealing with trauma in that area. And I'm just trying to figure out how to navigate around it so that I can still use my voice for good.
Yeah. And stop me, of course, if anything gets too personal or if you don't want to talk about anything. But I actually first found out about you guys when I saw like a news headline about your dad. And I saw like people saying that they were trying to like find the location of the funeral service so they could like try and get pictures. And it's so deeply upsetting to me. I had a similar experience when my mom passed away where I was terrified of like, fuck, is paparazzi going to be there at the fucking funeral? Like, I just felt so much like just rage, fury at like, I felt so disheartened in humanity. I felt like there was no space to process this event, and almost like people wanted to see me like crumble at the event that you naturally crumble because of. Like, there was no way I wasn't going to crumble.
Jenna, at first I want to say I'm very sorry to hear about your mom. I heard that she had a really long battle with cancer, and I know how terrible that is for an individual and their family.
Yeah. Thanks.
And yeah, just with the whole funeral situation, it was really scary, honestly, at the time. It was like I was, of course, losing a best friend, and then having to plan for, what was going to happen afterwards in the funeral service, honestly, while my dad was still alive, because, we heard news from hospice, and then, reality sets in. You're like, hey, I have to be prepared for this funeral service. I can't have people coming in and taking pictures and all that. So we ended up bringing a security service beforehand. which was it was really morbid in itself. And something that, was unfortunate. But I mean, that's what the internet is. When you put yourself out there, you're putting yourself out there to everyone. Everyone has access to the internet. So.
Yeah. And so I think that there was, we were defended by 99.9% of our following. Like,
that's great.
Not do this.
It's not all of our following. Yeah. I'm not sure if the people who are trying to come to the funeral for pictures.
Yeah, they could have just been haters or trolls or something, trying to say something to make us feel, uncomfortable.
Sure.
But, I think you said it well. I don't know. This is it's hard for me to talk about because I just don't want to say
the wrong thing.
I don't want to say the wrong thing to upset anybody, but
no, I mean, I get that. Is that I imagine that's something that you guys implement in pretty much everything you talk about, is like, because you have such a wide reach and such a large fan base, are you kind of concerned with how you articulate certain things? Do you feel like you can be as free as you'd like to be, or do you feel somewhat constrained by like all the input?
Yeah, I don't know if it's constrained. It's just, I guess I'm a paranoid person and I'm afraid that people are going to misconstrue what I'm saying. I never want to upset anyone. And I realize how powerful words are. So I'm very careful. And then of course it definitely gives me anxiety when I'm speaking for long periods of time on a public platform. I'm like, I just hope I didn't say something that is going to upset someone.
Yeah, I feel that too. I get terrified that something, especially like, people are really right now wanting to, for whatever reason, like grab a headline about my experience with child acting. And I'll say something that's like, I think pretty well spoken and articulate. And then they'll like take one little nugget, like 2 little words, and they'll be like, she quits. She hates everyone. I'll be like, okay, this is ridiculous. What are we doing, guys? Like, I don't know why they have to like make a thing dramatic. I guess it's just for views or whatever, but it's annoying.
Yeah. Has it affected like how you feel about podcasting at all? Or do you just kind of...
It's a good question. It's definitely taken more time in the edit, because now I'm like I try to listen with like the shark media ears of like, what can they try and grab? And it's definitely affected how I edit the episodes. And I feel like they've been shorter because I have to cut out. It's probably good. I'm probably cutting out a lot of my just like long-winded tangents, but I feel like I have to cut out more to kind of make sure that that nothing can be taken out of context. Yeah. It's a little irritating.
Frustrated that that's like a responsibility now, that you have to like look at yourself through like someone else's eyes and someone who like honestly doesn't have your best interest at heart.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's difficult since it is from the media, and there's some people, some journalists and things that have been incredibly nice and generous to me and supportive, and that's lovely. But more often than not, I find my experience with the media to be that they just want the views and then the negative kind of lean to a thing, whereas like the audience is incredibly understanding and incredibly nuanced in how they perceive things, and I don't feel like I could possibly misstep with the audience. I feel like they're just so understanding and compassionate, and it's unfortunate that now it's not even like navigating the audience. It's just about navigating the media.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you guys feel that with the media or with the audience or both?
Us, there is I wouldn't even call them the audience, but for us, it's like, it's not so much the media. Like we would end up on headlines very often. It was more so like troll accounts and things like that I guess act as the media. I guess you can compare them to how the media kind of...
Bull sharks.
New age media, I guess.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And we even found that with like in public with like paparazzi, like we don't really have many experiences with paparazzi, but we have people that don't really like us so much that will like come and try to get a photo of us doing something.
Who are these people? Like, what are they?
It's weird. It's like, it's just like an entirely different era, I guess. It's like, because we came up, like I said, at the beginning of digital media.
Yes.
And paparazzi they just didn't get hip to it, I guess. And but like these like younger people that were like consuming social media and stuff like that, like they took the place of paparazzi for digital creators. It's a weird concept.
Yeah, it's definitely a completely different world. I'm very intrigued by it, as I think everybody is, because it's just like that's where things are going. I think I remember seeing something in like the Hollywood Reporter about like when any kid is asked like, would they rather be Jennifer Lawrence or somebody on social media, they're like, who's Jennifer Lawrence? I don't know who that is. Give me the YouTube camera and call it a day. Like that's where things are going.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really crazy. And like you said, there's these are kids that are trying to make these decisions early on in life, and they don't have the knowledge of really understanding what they actually want to do with their life. And sometimes when you jump into it, it becomes this insanely long journey that you just can't step away from, because it is really addicting to get views and to get people interested in what you're doing. Especially, I remember when I was really young, I would get comments from, when I first started getting comments from people that I didn't know personally. I was like, oh my God, like I'm kind of like making friends with people. And you just feel like, I don't know, it's like a sense of popularity, I guess. And it gets addicted to people. But yeah, that's why I feel like it's pretty dangerous for kids to be on social media.
Yeah. It's also a career path. Everyone knows now that it can be a successful career path because it's done. But when we started, like no one had really had a career in social media. Maybe like a select number of YouTubers, but they had like high production value and everything like that. We came up as like just user generated content. It's like anyone can do it with their phone. But we wanted to make a career out of it. And the thing about this is that it's just like, you can't have a 5-year plan with a career in social media because of the ways that it changes and the different waves that come.
Yes.
And trends and things like that. Like there, if I'm remembering correctly, there was like a year on social media, I think it was 2017, where drama was like the #1 consumed content. Like anything that had anything to do with like shitting on someone or just like a negative title. Yeah. It clicks and it did so well. And then that died off because I think everyone got tired of it. And then the next year was like a really positive year on social media.
The pendulum swing. Yes.
Yeah, I guess so. But like, there's no way to really plan for that. When you're looking at it, another job, I guess you can kind of have a ballpark estimate of like how it's going to go for the next 5 years and like where you want to take it.
How has it been for you guys navigating kind of the ups and downs of the internet? Like, can you kind of go into the various phases and what your experience was like with them? Because it's been so long now.
I think at first we had a really clear idea of what we wanted to be doing on social media when we were young, I guess around like 16 years old. And then for the next like 3 years after that, we kind of just did our own thing. And then, then I feel like the ups and downs got a lot more drastic after like 2019, 2020. I mean, obviously when everyone was just stuck inside, not knowing what to do and really just psychoanalyzing everyone and everything. And then there was so many fluctuations and like what was hot on social media. And we at that point really kind of tried to jump on like the bandwagon and follow along, just because like I wasn't sure if we were doing anything that was interesting enough for people to be watching. So I was like, okay, let's just do the interesting thing. So yeah, we definitely fell victim to that.
Wow.
And yeah, I feel like that was like the worst representation of ourselves at the time.
This is 2019?
Yeah, 2020 probably.
2020, I think.
Yeah.
And what can you explain what that looked like? What that content was like?
Yeah. It's really like embarrassing stuff, but we decided to like kind of vlog everything in our entire lives. And after, I guess, 20 years old and really trying to figure out who you are, it just wasn't the greatest time to be doing that. And it was just really humiliating. So we deleted everything.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It was just like, I feel like social media progressively got more exploitative as time went on.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Everyone, like if you weren't showing like the inside of your bathroom, then people didn't care about you. You know what I mean?
You have to show it. There was a point where it came where you had to show everything. I think as some people started to push the envelope and talk about like, I don't know, their relationships or failed friendships or just things that were really juicy and dramatic that people were like, oh, I want to, view this. As more and more people did that, the content that wasn't that became a little bit more boring and less edgy. Mm-hmm. So I guess we try to keep up, and we're not really those types of people. We don't really like drama, and we don't like to let people in too close in our lives. I have a hard time like creating trustworthy, finding trustworthy people to have friendships with and everything like that. So I guess I'm like a pretty guarded person at first. And then I completely just strayed away from who I was and just did whatever social media wanted me to do. And it was also like a really weird time in our lives. It was pretty bad timing. We kind of had like, I guess looking back on it now, pretty severe eating disorders, and it just really messed with our heads. And
both of you.
Yeah, I was really unconfident, and I hit an all-time low. And that's when I decided to just show the most of my life that I had ever shown.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's weird. I don't know. I feel like that's one of the things that I regret doing. The other things that I've done on social media, I don't really regret so much. The ups and downs were just like, you kind of just figured them out, and they weren't really that deep, but I feel like as we got older, they got a little bit deeper because I felt more of a responsibility over the things that I was putting out. And now I feel a great responsibility for the things I put out, and some of them were not so great and not, like Ethan said, a good representation of who I am. But what can you do? I mean, you make mistakes and you live and learn, and that's life. It's just weird that it's public.
I so agree. And that's definitely something that I still struggle with, is like just sort of the ghosts of my past and being haunted or humiliated by certain things. And I'm just like, I wish I could just wipe this clean. But to your point, that's not how it goes. And if you have any tips for me, that would be greatly appreciated, because it's not easy.
So do you have, because when did you get in front of the camera? Like,
I was 6 when I started acting. I was a little bean.
Yeah.
I don't have memories of a time in my life when I wasn't acting.
Really? Wow. And so does some of that still bother you?
Yeah. I mean, because it was sort of a thing that I did to please my mom, and it wasn't a self-driven thing for me. I just feel like I kind of didn't have I didn't really fully live my childhood. I think that it's really important for kids and teenagers, honestly, also, even young adults, to have that space to grow and develop. And especially up to, I think your brain fully develops at 25 or something like that. And it's to have that time where you can just explore yourself and make mistakes without having input from the world, I think is so important. And I kind of just felt like I had an unlived childhood that then I was left with when I quit acting. And I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm kind of just like a 6-year-old inside, because I didn't have all those years. So let's see how this goes. And it did not go well. And it was not a fun phase of my life. But I do think it was really important so that I could have some semblance of a legitimate identity, or I just would have been a shadow of a person, an absolute shadow of a person. It's pretty creepy.
Was the thought of turning away from acting and finding yourself off camera and doing your own thing, was that intimidating at first? You felt like you were going to give it up as well?
Yes. Well, I felt like, oh God, this is all going to slip away. And these are things that people tell me that I should want. Fame and money and all that is a thing that everybody says, oh, you're so lucky. And am I absolutely crazy to walk away from this? Is this going to be the biggest regret of my life? Also, everybody around me is telling me that I'd be crazy to walk away from this. So there's nobody who's really saying hey, do what's best for your mental health. There wasn't really that advocate other than my therapist. God bless her. Thank you, Erin. So it was this really difficult decision to make. And it took months of back and forth. And I felt like I was just kind of trying to tiptoe around it and I'd be like, well, maybe I'll just do this one thing, or maybe I'll do this one thing. When really inside what I wanted was just no, you need to quit. You have to stop. You're not going to be okay if you keep going. Doesn't matter how many other people are weighing in on this. Finally, once I did that, was when I really started to see tangible changes and improvements in my mental health. And now I think it was absolutely the right decision. But it was not easy to come to it, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely feel you on that. It was definitely one of the most scary conversations that I've had with Grayson. When we were okay, this is going to get bad if we don't stop. And it wasn't and then that's when we were doing the podcast and everything. Okay, well, we can hold on to it here and do a little bit here, pop in every once in a while there. And I was I really don't think that we're going to figure out who we are unless we're living for ourselves only. And I knew it would take time as well. We can't just do it for a week and then get back to it. You don't figure out who you are within just a week. So
right.
I feel now I'm really starting to make improvements on my mental health.
That's great.
And figure out what I really like to do myself.
Yeah, I think we can definitely relate to you. We left school at just after we turned 15. So I have a month of high school. But I would say, I think the last time I was in school was 8th grade. So from there, we moved to LA and we got our own apartment. It was just us two. And then every single day we woke up, worked, went to sleep, woke up, worked, went to sleep. And
when you were 15?
Yeah, because we had this weekly thing on YouTube to keep going, and we never wanted to miss a Tuesday. That's the day we used to post on. And then all the other social media platforms that we wanted to keep up to date and stuff. That was hard work. I'm not gonna sell it short. It was hard work. It's like, it's weird how ideal being a YouTuber seems, but like once you actually do it, it's really hard work, and it can be very mentally draining. But
I'd say even more so now than it was back then. It was much easier back then when we did it. Mm-hmm. I feel bad for the young people that are getting into it nowadays, just because social media has become so much more of an exploitative place, and you really have to forfeit all of your privacy in exchange for views, which are not tangible, and are they really valuable? Mm-hmm. And I feel like they're becoming less and less valuable because there's more and more people on these platforms, and you're viewed as a little bit, maybe less important now than people were back then, by brands and people who want to pay you money because they can just go to someone else because there's so many people doing it. And it's just, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of people who, like, even these platforms themselves, it's like they're kind of stripping sanity from young people in exchange for like screen time and monetary gain.
Yes.
So, we're just, I don't know. But I do feel like I entered like a time warp from, I think, 14 to like about 20 years old. And then I came out and I'm like, whoa, I'm Grayson again. I feel like myself, and I'm going to start exploring the things that truly matter to me. Like, I was doing the thing where I was getting expensive clothes and driving a cool car and things like that I thought, I think the whole time I was just trying to convince myself that that's what I truly wanted for myself. But it was really just so that
you could look cool.
I could uphold this like famous reputation and like look cool for other people, but it didn't actually matter to me. And I didn't feel like myself sitting in that car,
Yeah.
And since I've taken a step back and regained my privacy and started to explore the things that I actually personally care about, I've made a lot of changes in that area of my life, and I feel so much better.
That's phenomenal. Was with the like cars and the clothes, was that was your social group also incorporating those things in their life? So there was some element of like, oh, I got to keep up with my social group, or was it not so much about that and just something that was like, oh, well, I guess I should do this because I'm famous and I'm, whatever.
So. I think our industry was doing that a lot. Like, other people on social media were doing a lot of that.
And I think there was some sort of reward or praise for it as well that you get online that would feel good as like a young person. You think that you're cool. I mean, everybody wants to be cool. So it was just that. And then also, if everybody else was doing it, you don't want to be the one person to not be doing it, because then you don't fit in as much. And so that was a big part of it as well. It was kind of like a cliche at the time to just like get like a cool car and get it wrapped and get cool rims on it. And I don't know, just little things like that. I realized that I think are just so like kind of silly. And now that I've figured out who I really am or what I'm becoming.
Yeah. You guys, you mentioned earlier sort of everybody feeling like they have they're a little bit entitled to like your identity in some sense. You phrased it better than that, but it was something along those lines. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. When he said that he felt that people had equity in our lives, I felt like, I mean, all of our viewers and supporters are definitely responsible for a lot of the success that we've had on social media in our life. We're greatly appreciative of them for, all of that, and also just for the support that they've given us. And it's just like when you, I guess, formed a relationship with someone at such a young age, and then you've grown with them, and you don't really even necessarily know each other, but you just met online. I feel like because they were, responsible for everything that our success, I felt like they probably thought they were responsible for other decisions that we made in our lives too, like who we were going to be friends with and who we want to have relationships with. And, and I don't blame them. We're all kids and we're all trying to figure out like what life is. And, and there's really, there's no like rule book to the social media thing. It's so new. And, I guess it was just, I don't know if there's any more to say about it besides that, but
I think a lot of it can just be attributed to being young and learning and just having relationships, and like the relationship that a creator has with their viewers and vice versa. Like, it's still like a young relationship where people are learning about how to navigate any sort of personal relationships that they have in life. And there's ways that can be damaging emotionally, and you just learn as you go. But and I wouldn't say it was like it definitely was not the majority of our supporters, like at all by any means, but there were things that I would see that would kind of just like, in other words, say like, why aren't you showing me this? Because I got you to where you are. You know what I mean? And it's, well, because like I can't, because I mean, there's other reasons too. Like we've had like extreme breaches of security and privacy before that have like scarred me for the rest of my life.
Yes.
About it, but you know, like it was handled by law and scary, like really, really scary shit. And that's like also traumatized me into not really wanting to share a lot of my life. But then the other people that were supporting me, I couldn't tell that to. And I can't say much more than I am right now.
Sure.
But I just couldn't really find a balance there because I literally legally wasn't allowed to either. So.
I hear you. I think this is such a complicated and nuanced area that is really difficult for people to understand, especially young people who I get where they're coming from of thinking like, well, but I'm a fan, so therefore I should have blank access to this person's every move. And that means I'm showing how much I love them. And I can kind of like, I guess, understand it, but I am biased and I see it more from my point of view because it's what I've lived in. And I guess I feel like my experience was different from yours in the sense that it wasn't, that I really started to like resent fame and resent the people who would approach me because I was on a kids show and I felt really ashamed about that. And, I had really intense eating disorders and my character was known for eating food. So people would literally just shout. Like, also, I feel like the reactions, there were some people who were incredibly nice and gracious and lovely, plenty of them, but there were also plenty of people who would, just grab my arm really intensely, aggressive mom types who just kind of grab the arm, get the picture with their kid. And I felt like, I don't know, I did feel like, oh, well, every time I leave the house, everybody feels like they deserve a piece of me. And I just want to get a coffee. Like, I just want to have some time with my, I remember one time when I was pushing my mom's wheelchair in Disneyland, my literally bald mom's wheelchair, and just hordes of people just like, please take a picture, like screaming. And I just felt like, this something has to give. Like, I don't know how to have this conversation when I feel like if I were to express these things, everybody would hate me. Yet it's something that I feel so intensely about. And I feel like is a conversation that needs to be had because I think it puts young people in the spotlight in danger. And I think it's really detrimental. And I don't know how to move things forward or how to have that conversation. But it's like, I really worry about young people who are famous and I want everyone to be as healthy as they can. And it's concerning to me that it's difficult to be that.
Likewise. Yeah. I really fear for young people on social media because, especially those who have larger platforms, because there's, everything that's going on with cancel culture nowadays where, just froze. Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good. Can you guys hear me?
Apache really.
You froze.
Oh my gosh. What if I open the door? Do you think it would?
I don't think so. I mean, the Wi-Fi router.
Oh, there you are. Do you see
Sorry.
Oh, fuck. You froze again.
Honestly, fear for younger people on social media who are in the spotlight because with cancel culture and everything being so rampant right now, there's obviously very little room to be human that's left. It's like if you mess up and do one little thing in your adolescence, then your entire life is a write-off. And I feel like, especially like, I just know how much I associated my self-worth with what the internet thought about me growing up. And I could only imagine if cancel culture was as predominant as it is now back then, if people were trying to cancel me and tell me that I was this type of person because I made this one mistake, I would probably be convinced that the rest of my life was like a write-off and I was a terrible human. So I fear that these little mess ups in people's lives they're going to define themselves by them. And I feel terrible.
And a lot of times it's unreasonable. Like I've been seeing so many headlines of young TikTokers like getting shamed for certain things that they've done. And it's just so unreasonable. It's like they're not doing anything different than every other 17-year-old out there right now.
And I'm sure everybody who's writing these articles knows that they've done the same things in their lives too. It's like,
so is everyone just going to act like they're perfect and just try to blame people for doing things that they've done themselves, And I don't know. And then what is someone in that position left to think about fame? Like, are they not meant to resent it? You know what I mean? Like it's hard. I was walking down the street with my friend exploring a new city And someone came up to me and grabbed me by both of my shoulders and screamed like, and screamed in my face. And I didn't really appreciate the encounter. So I continued to walk. And I was also like I was getting picked up by a car with like the group that I was with.
Yeah.
I had to get to this place in a certain time. And I continued to walk. I said, hello. And I just continued to walk. And then they were like, are you fucking kidding me? You're not going to stop. Wow, you're such an asshole. And it's like, I don't know in that situation what I'm supposed to do. Like, I am someone who is very grateful for all of the support and attention that I've received online. But in that situation, like, I'm also still a human, like, and I don't think that any human should be treated that way. And so, like, it would be against my character to stop and to just allow someone to treat me like that. You know what I mean? And then I was just like yelled at and called an asshole for not stopping, because it's kind of like, I guess what I was thought, it was thought to be like an obligation that I needed to stop, because that was an example of someone, I think, thinking that they like owned a piece of me.
100%. Yeah. I've been called I've been shouted at as a bitch more times than I care to recall. But I'm curious too, if you guys, in doing even, how long did you do the podcast for?
We did the podcast for, I think, a year, but I think it was on camera, because we did it off camera, just audio only, which was honestly a lot less stressful. I think, because I guess it lived on a platform like that wasn't YouTube, and we knew how like the YouTube comment section worked and everything like that. But then we went to YouTube, and then I think we did it for like 5 months, 6 months, something like that. So it was like over a year total. I think we did like 55 episodes, which is like over a year's worth.
Got it. I'm sort of curious how, if the encounters with your fans changed during that, because I've noticed. So I was just completely signed off social media for a couple of years. And then while I was like trying to get my shit together and kind of figure out who I was and what I wanted to say and how I wanted to say it. And once I started talking about things that actually mattered to me and I literally had the mindset of like, okay, if everybody goes away, but 5 people, at least I'm going to have a genuine connection with those 5 people. And I have to trust that that's going to be okay. And that's going to, make more of a difference. And trusting that has definitely not been easy. And there's been plenty of self-doubt that's come along with it. But I have noticed, like, now people that approach me, it's a different kind of person. I feel like, oh my God, I feel a connection with them. The things that they say, I have chills right now. Like I met this, girl the other day named Riley in a Salt and Straw, who like told me that the podcast helped her grow and changed her life. And it's a different type of response than, hey, where's the fried chicken? Like, it's much more heartwarming. It's much more encouraging. And I feel like things are resonating with the people they're supposed to resonate with. And there's a lot of hope in that. So I'm curious if you guys have had that experience as you've explored projects that have meant something to you in a deeper way, how that's kind of transformed your encounters with fans.
Definitely. I think there's been a mix. I think there's been like a lot of really refreshing encounters. As many times as I get someone grabbing my shoulders and doing something like that and demanding a picture. I have people come up and they say that they've learned something through my podcast or a video or documentary or whatnot. And I really appreciate that stuff. And that happens a lot of times. And it's part of the reason why I did what I did for so long. And I will continue to do what I do. I just got to figure out how I'm going to do that, like how it makes sense for me personally. So I'm not really in a rush to get back in front of the camera at all. But I do want to continue to make things that can be seen and received by people to hopefully spread a good message. I do appreciate this encounter so much.
Yeah. Can we talk about a little bit of like what you guys want to focus on now and where you're at and the kinds of things you're sorting through nowadays?
Yeah, sure. I mean, right now, like we're kind of working in silence, and it's been the first time that we've ever done that, because in the past, as soon as we work on something, like the whole deal was to like promote it on social media and let everybody know about it. But what we're working on now is like we haven't really even told our mom about it at all. So I don't know when we're going to be ready to like publicly speak about it.
Sure.
It's been I can say that it's been like just such a joy learning something new, and something that I'm just extremely passionate about, and being able to get up and work on it almost every day now. And it's been great. And in the time that I'm not working, I've been like exploring new hobbies and things like that. I think I have a real love for art in all forms. It was video creating from the time I was like 5 years old when my sister got a flip video camera. We started making videos and showing our family members. And then when they would smile, it would like just give me so much juice to go and make another video.
Yeah.
And then carried on. And that's what we did became our career. Fortunately, we were fortunate enough to be able to do that. But I think that when it became our career, it took a little bit of like the magic away from it, because we started to have to abide by this system that like was views so that we can continue to make it and like continue for it to be a career. Because like you just make videos that you want to, sometimes like not everyone wants to see that, and then you can't continue to make videos because you don't make any money, and then you can't make any more videos. So it was kind of like we were chasing our tail there, like, okay, what can we make that will also like allow us to continue to make videos? And that was, we found the balance there, and then other things happened and stuff like that we said. But on the side, I've been building a lot, and I feel like that's like has become like a creative outlet for me that I never wish to be paid to do.
Building?
Yeah, building. Like,
yeah, we've both been doing that a lot. We built a gazebo on our hillside, and we built
a gazebo.
Yeah, that was a big.
Wait. Okay, when you say building, I figured it'd be like, so then I built like, I don't know, a jewelry box, like a plate. You literally built a gazebo?
Yeah,
that's insane. Congratulations. That must feel like such an accomplishment.
It's 9.5 by 10 feet. And
oh my God.
I guess the dopamine flowing for sure. Each bolt that goes in. It
was a lot of fun. And then like right now I'm building something for my sister. Place and just things like that. They like really give back to my soul, and they're rewarding. And I don't know, that's like something I would suggest to anybody, is to just do something.
Just quit everything and build business for free.
No, to have an outlet, like whether it's like writing or even if you're not creative, it's just like doing fun math problems. I don't know, like if that's what you have the most fun doing, just do something that gives back to you, and just never think about getting paid for it, and just do it for fun, and just find a hobby. I think maybe it boils down to just finding a good hobby.
I agree with you. I do think that it's so difficult to, I guess, not be motivated by money. And I also recognize like the privilege in saying that if there's any sort of financial stability in your life. But I do feel like being motivated by money is just, I mean, we all hear that it's like a recipe for disaster, but it gets ugly so fast.
Yeah.
And it leads to like, I think the most inauthenticity imaginable. Like, I don't think it's possible to be more inauthentic than when it's like, oh, I got to keep making the money and like keeping up the standard of however much I made last year, or like whatever it is. It's like, yikes.
Yeah. Because there's always a way to make more money faster. And it's normally not the most respectful way. And then you just end up doing it. And then you start to lose respect for yourself. So yeah, I totally understand that.
My grandma called me out for that. I think that also became an issue on social media. Like, it became a thing of like, how do we continue to do as well as we did the previous years and stuff like that? And we started to think about money a little bit too much. Mm-hmm. When we began YouTube, we didn't even get paid for the first year. Like, I don't think I don't think I figured out how to turn on monetization until we had over 1 million subscribers. So like that wasn't our focus. It was just like making videos and having fun.
And that's when it was the most fun.
And that was when it was the most fun. Mm-hmm. And then the more of a business it became, the less fun it got. So I think that
I don't want to like discourage people. There's definitely a way to have fun in business, but I think it's just keeping that passion and keeping the fire burning and not just focusing on money only.
Yeah.
I hear you. I'm also curious, not only growing up in the public eye, but also growing in the public eye. Like, I feel like we've touched on a little bit, but I'd love to go further into like how you like, do you feel that it's necessary to completely step away from the public eye in order to grow at a certain point? Or do you think that it is possible to kind of keep growing and be in the public eye at a young age?
I think for different people, there are different remedies for growing in self-growth. And I think for us personally, we just can't grow in the public eye. I think I value people's opinions sometimes more than I'd like to, even if I really truly feel like it's just someone trolling. I just, for some reason, find myself listening to them, and I don't want them to be right. So I just really stepped away to think, okay, if I'm not sharing my life with anybody at all, what would I actually find joy doing? And that's why I really need to be off of social media while I'm finding myself. Also, I'm really passionate about trying to use my life to make a positive change on this planet. And I really want to make sure that I don't end up doing something that's counterproductive. And then I have to, just retrace my steps and do it better when I could just start and do it the best I possibly can. So I think I have to just really collect my thoughts and become more articulate and really figure out what I'm passionate about. And then from then I'll be able to do it without messing up as much.
Have you both found that you're like passionate about similar things? You both love the building, it sounds like.
Yeah. Our whole life, it's been like that. We've done everything together. And it's always like if Grayson does something that I'm not able to do yet, I do it like the next hour or vice versa, just because we see someone who looks exactly like us, has the same capabilities. And then we're like, okay, well, I guess I have to do that.
It's a weird twin dynamic. We were even able to walk at like a really freakishly young age. We were like running at 11 months and it was just because one of us stood up and then it was proof that the other one could do it. And then one took a step and then it was proof that the other one could do it. And so we would just push ourselves, and it's always been like that for our entire lives and everything we do. So
I guess it's just like a competitive thing too.
Yeah. But it's like, if this guy with the same DNA as me can do this, then why can't I?
Totally.
So we always put ourselves there. And it's like, it's also like companionship. Like if we're doing something and we're giving it our all, it's nice to have like someone to do it with, because you can kind of go crazy losing yourself in something that you're really passionate about.
And then it's like validation. Like if I think that I did something that was pretty cool, or I would show Grayson and be, hey, do you think this is cool? And if he said yes, then I was confident in it. And if he said no, then I'd probably retry. So I feel like I need him there for validation.
Definitely. Ethan, you mentioned sort of wanting to have or make a positive impact with your life. And I'm always curious how a person defines like what a positive impact is, or how you get to the root of it, because I feel like it can be such a broad area, and how different people interpret what a positive impact is can look really different person to person. So like, what does it look like? Well, for each of you.
Yeah, I think for me personally, I just had a lot of time to sit back and find out what I felt was like disturbing or something that made me angry about this world and the way that it works. And then, try to change that.
Yes.
To the best of my abilities. And one of those things has been just environmentalism and how people treat the planet. And I feel like we could do a better job at that. And also the way we treat animals and we treat other humans. I know that sounds like a lot of stuff, but that's why I really want to take my time to think about how I can projects that maybe, evoke conversation or, and then maybe lead to change. So, those are like the three main things, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's like, I'm with Ethan on all of those. We're working together on how we can like approach making positive change in all those areas.
Luckily, we pretty much have the same opinion on everything. So I have someone to help me, and he has someone to help him.
That helps too. But they're huge issues, they're global issues, and it's like creating that plan of approach is something that should be well thought through and take some time on. So that's
why we wanted to like not jump the gun and just speak about everything on the podcast when we didn't have our thoughts collected and maybe I just didn't want to approach it in the wrong way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really admirable. If you guys are comfortable wrapping up with one question, I just would love to know what advice you would give to your younger selves in terms of being in the public eye, navigating that. What if you could just like look back, if you could tell yourself anything, what would it be?
That's a good question. I still feel like I'm struggling to honestly understand what I should be telling myself now. So I'm still figuring that out. But for my younger self, I would say just really do your own thing, because you'll attract people who are interested in what you do. And then, that's how friendships are made. That's how relationships are made. And on the internet, you have a lot of people in your life that maybe you would never meet before. So you want to make sure that you're, surrounding yourself with the like-minded ones.
Mm-hmm. And I would say focus on what's in front of you and focus on being grateful for what you have in that moment and like always just like want and feel like you need more than what you have. Like I feel like there was a time where we were like chasing getting our subscriber count up and doing things like that. But I think a good piece of advice at that time would have
a good sentence to wrap it up would be you don't need as much as you think you do.
100%. This conversation has been so fulfilling. I am just such a fan of you guys. I'm really excited to see whenever you kind of come out again with stuff. I'm really excited to see what you do. I think it's going to be really special. And I definitely deeply admire that you're taking the time and the space that you need to make sure that you're saying things that you want to say when you say them again.
Thank you so much. Thanks. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate this conversation. I enjoyed it a lot, and
looking forward to listening to your podcast in the future.
Yeah, I learned so much just having this conversation. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Alrighty. Bye-bye.